Is this your girl's first year in rhythmic gymnastics? Or maybe you've been already through a season or two and you had this happen. The leotard arrives and it's too small, too big, or it just doesn't sit quite right on her. And even worse, you find out that something about the leotard doesn't meet USA Rhythmic Gymnastics points code for her level. If you ever opened that box and thought, oh no, now we have to fix this, especially after you already spent so much money on the leotard, this video is for you. By the end of this video, I want you to feel a little more confident about what to ask, what to look, and what to avoid when ordering a rhythmic gymnastics leotard for a girl competing in the levels 3 to 5 in the United States Development Program. Whether you are ordering from someone close to home or from a designer in another country. Hi, my name is Emma, and if you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy you found me. I'm an artist, a retired rhythmic gymnastics parent myself, and for the last 6 years, I've been designing and making rhythmic gymnastics leotards, everything from one leotard for an individual gymnast to full group competition sets. And because I've been on both sides as a parent and now as a designer, I see many of the little things that can go right and also the things that can become stressful when you are ordering a leotard. So today, I just want to share some of that experience with you and hopefully make the process a little easier. Let's get into it. Mistake number 1, ordering too late. This one happens very easily. You start looking for a leotard, thinking you still have plenty of time, and then suddenly you find out it may take 4 to 6 months before the finished leotard is actually in your hands. And when you understand what's happening on the designer side, that timeline starts to make a little more sense. It doesn't necessarily mean your leotard itself takes 4 to 6 months to make. Your designer may already have many other orders scheduled ahead of yours. During competition season, designers can be working nonstop, moving from one order to the next. So when you place your order, you're also reserving your place in that schedule. And remember, this isn't a t-shirt we're pulling off the rack. It's a piece of art. There may be layers of fabric, layers of painting, applique, and hundreds of even thousands of rhinestones, many of them placed by hand. So the leotard looks beautiful on the carpet and works with the gymnast routine, and that's part of what makes custom design work so special. Ideally, the design should feel like it belongs to your girl, her music, her routine, her personality, and her movement. So once you agree on the design and colors, especially if you're ordering overseas, it may still be several months before you receive the finished piece, simply because there are other orders ahead of yours. That's why I recommend starting the conversation with your maker or designer at least 7 months before the first competition. That gives everyone a little breathing room. And if the leotard arrives and needs a small alteration, you have time to take care of it without that terrible last-minute panic right before competition. And if there is a particular designer whose work you really love, ask about their booking schedule very early. Some designers may reserve a spot as much as 9 months ahead, sometimes with a non-refundable booking fee. There is nothing wrong with asking. A simple conversation early in the season can save you a lot of stress later. Mistake number 2, not including your coach. Your coach can be such an important part of this decision. Your coach understands the routine, the music, and what will work best for your girl on the carpet. The coach may have very clear vision. Maybe something bright and energetic will work better this season. Maybe darker colors are not the best choice. Or maybe there's a certain style that works beautifully with the music and the routine. So before you completely fall in love with a design, talk to your coach. As parents, we naturally get excited And I completely understand that because I've been that parent too. We see something beautiful and think, oh my goodness, she will look amazing in this. But your coach is looking at it from another perspective, thinking about the music, the routine, the apparatus, and the complete picture your girl will present on the carpet. And remember, your coach wants the same thing you do for your girl to succeed, perform at her very best, and achieve the highest score she can. The leotard, it's part of that complete presentation. It should complement the music, the routine, and the gymnast rather than distract from any of them. Unfortunately, this happens more often than you might think. A family orders a beautiful leotard, waits months for it, everyone is excited, and finally arrives. The coach says, I'm sorry, but we can't use this one. And of course, that's disappointing. But the coach isn't trying to make things difficult for you. The coach is making that decision with your girl's best interest in mind and thinking about what will help the entire routine come together successfully in competition. A 10-minute conversation with your coach before you finalize the design can save you months of back and forth and possibly the expense of having something change, or in the worst case, having a beautiful leotard that your girl can use. Mistake number 3, guessing at measurements. This is probably one of the most common problems we see, and measurements can be confusing, especially when you're ordering from someone far away. If you're ordering outside your city, your state, or even your country, I strongly recommend asking for a visual measurement guide, not only a written one. Every designer may measure a little differently because we all work with our own patterns and our own systems. Think about those toy assembly instructions that use pictures instead of paragraphs. You can look at the drawing and immediately understand where something goes. That's the kind of clarity you want when you are measuring your girl. You don't want to be standing there with a measurement tape wondering, does she mean here or here? A good visual guide takes away that guessing. And there's another question I think is very important to ask. Is the leotard being drafted specifically from your girl's measurements, or is the designer using a standard size block? Neither conversation has to be uncomfortable. You are simply trying to understand how the leotard will be fitted. This is especially important because girls can have very different proportions. You may have a girl who is very small around the bust, waist, and hips, but has a longer torso. If she's placed into a standard size based on only a few measurements, the leotard could end up too short around the torso and too loose around the sides. So don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not being difficult. You're simply giving the designer the information they need to create the best possible fit for your girl. And most designers appreciate good, clear communication. Mistake number 4, not planning for growth. Oh, this one is very important because these girls grow so fast. I personally had girls grow close to 10 centimeters in 1 year. By the end of the season, a leotard that fit beautifully at the beginning could almost be a full size too small. So measurements taken in July or August may not represent exactly where your girl will be in January or February. Talk to your designer about this. Ask whether they can allow a little growing room through the torso so your girl has some space to grow during the season. But I want to be clear here. I'm not saying to order the leotard too big. The points of codes requires the leotard to be tight-fitting so the judges can clearly see and correctly evaluate the gymnast's body positions. We're talking about thoughtful growing room, especially through the torso, not a loose leotard. And here's something I noticed over the years that may help you. At this age, many girls seem to grow in length before they grow very much around the body. Their bust, waist, and hip measurements may stay almost the same for a while their torso becomes longer. One more little tip. Check the leg elastic. Here's one more detail I really recommend asking about, because it might not seem important when you're ordering the leotard, but it can make a big difference later if your girl needs an alteration. Ask your maker how the elastic is finished around the leg opening. What I recommend is a casing. The elastic sits inside a fabric channel and stays free inside that channel. This makes it much easier to adjust later if your girl's body changes during the season. A cover stitch is different. That's the double row of stitching you usually see on the outside with a chain of thread underneath. With this method, the elastic is actually stitched down together with the fabric. It can look very clean and beautiful, but the problem comes later. If you need to change the size of that leg opening before the elastic can even be adjusted or replaced, the person doing the alteration has to carefully remove all that tie stitching. And here in the United States, alterations are usually charged by the hour. So something that could have been a relatively simple elastic adjustment can become much more time-consuming and more expensive. Most designers may already use a casing, but some do use a cover stitch, so don't assume. It's a very simple question to ask when you're placing your order. You'll be very glad you asked. Mistake number 5, not checking the points of code. And finally, this one is the most important before the design is finalized. Make sure your designer is familiar with the USA Rhythmic Gymnastics Points of Code for levels 3, 4, and 5. There are specific rules for these levels. And even a beautiful leotard can create a problem if one of those details doesn't meet the code. So let's get into it. There should be no nude color fabric on any part of the garment. There should be no transparent sheer or lace fabric anywhere on the leotard. And if the leotard has a skirt, the fabric of the skirt needs to follow those same rules for these levels. So not transparent sheer, lace, or nude fabric. The neckline also has limits in the front. It can't go lower than halfway between collarbone and the sternum. And in the back, it can't go lower than the bottom of the shoulder blade. The leg line can't go higher than the fold of the crotch. And undergarments should never be visible outside the leotard. The entire leotard needs to be tight-fitting so the judges can clearly see the gymnast's body positions, and that includes the sleeves. I've actually seen this quite a few times in alterations. A leotard may fit beautifully through the body, but the sleeves arrive too loose, especially on girls with very thin arms. Then the sleeves have to be taken in and slimmed down so they fit properly. The sleeves should fit close to the arms without being so tight. That could restrict her movement. A little note about sleeves. And there's another reason I want you to pay attention to sleeves. This isn't necessarily a rule. It's something I like parents to think about when they're choosing a design. Good quality spandex stretches up to 90% and can already have some weight to it. Once we start adding applique and then rhinestones on top, a full sleeve can become heavier and less flexible, especially on a girl with very small arms. So personally, I love giving younger gymnasts as much freedom or movement as possible. That might mean sleeveless, a short sleeve, or even an asymmetrical design. Perhaps one sleeve on one side and a strap on the other. Those options can be beautiful. and they can give her arms more freedom when she's stretching, getting into her positions, and performing the routine. If you absolutely love the look of a full sleeve, that's okay too. Just talk to your designer about keeping it as light and flexible as possible. The goal is a beautiful closed fit that still allows her to move comfortably. For the skirt, if there is one, it shouldn't fall past the pelvic area. Narrow straps are allowed with or without sleeves. And decorative applique needs to be completely attached to the leotard when the garment is still. You don't want pieces hanging, fraying, loose, or dangling. These are not just little design or details. They are part of making sure the leotard follows the code. And there is one more thing parents of levels 3 through 5 should know when they are deciding how many leotards to order. For levels 3 and 4, only one leotard is permitted. So your gymnast will wear the same leotard for all of her routines. Level 5 is a little different. A level 5 gymnast may have up to 2 different leotards. Your coach will normally guide you through this. So again, this is another reason why keeping your coach involved from the beginning can be so helpful. And before we finish, I want to give you one last little heads up, especially if you're considering ordering ready-made leotards online. I'm talking about the ones where you see the picture, choose a standard size, and it arrives already made. Some of the very inexpensive ones are made with printed nylon. The design is printed directly onto the fabric with rhinestones added on top. And depending on the quality, some of these fabrics may only stretch well in 2 directions instead of having the 4-way stretch of a good performance spandex. You may also notice that some of these leotards are very loose around the waist and hips, and you may think, that's okay, I can just have it altered. But be careful. If the fabric doesn't have enough stretch, taking it in to fit close to the body can restrict the gymnast movement. So sometimes the problem isn't really the size, it's the fabric. If this information is available, look for a fabric around 82% nylon and 18% spandex with a weight around 200 GSM or about 5.9 ounces per square yard. You may also see words like 32 gauge or tricot knit, which are commonly used for this type of performance fabric. Not every website will give you all these details, but if they do, that information can really help you choose a leotard with better stretch, recovery, and fit, and make a more informed choice before you place your order. I completely understand wanting to find an affordable option, especially for levels 3, 4, and 5. I'm just giving you a little heads up so you know what to look for before you order. And if the budget is your main concern, ask your coach or other parents about rentals. Many families have beautiful competition leotards from the previous season that can be rented for a very reasonable price. It may be a great option for your girl. Whatever you choose, just make sure the leotard can move with her, not against her. And that's my little extra tip before we finish. And that's it. I really hope this information helps make ordering your girl's leotard a little easier and a lot more enjoyable this season. Because yes, there are measurements and rules and timelines and all these little details we have to think about, but this is also supposed to be fun. Enjoy choosing the colors, enjoy seeing the design come together, enjoy watching your girl. Put a leotard on her for the first time and seeing how excited she feels. And most of all, enjoy the competitions. I remember those years as a rhythmic gymnastic parent myself, and they go by so quickly. When your girl walks onto that carpet, take a look in. The music, the nerves, the excitement, those moments are priceless, and those years don't ever come back. So enjoy every single one of them. Thank you.